Hello, we're on 2.01 Algebra 2 notes today. And so we're starting a new unit. And if you haven't taken the test yet, this lesson will not be on your test. So this is kind of a review lesson from geometry on circles, but it also combines something that we were talking about before, which is completing the square. So first we're going to actually, let's first talk about review the center radius form for a circle. So our center radius form of a circle is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, where hk, that point, that represents your center, and the radius is represented by the letter r. So if you notice here, it's minus h minus k in the formula. So that's why when you take it out, you take the opposite sign. So it would be positive h, positive k, making up your center. Just like when you talk about your parent functions and your shifts, when it's inside the parentheses, you do the opposite of what you'd think that you would do. So first now we'll do I want you to identify the center and radius of x squared plus y minus 12 quantity squared equals 8. So for here, our center, we're looking at whatever's attached with the x, and there's nothing. So that's really like saying x minus 0 squared plus y minus 12 squared equals 8. So your h would just be 0, and your k, again, remember to take the opposite signs, would be positive 12. For your radius, you're going to take whatever it's equal to, so that's r squared. We want just r for the radius, so we're going to take the square root of 8, and then, of course, always put it into simplest radical form. Take the largest perfect square first, which is a 4, and our radius gives us 2 rad 2. So the radius is 2 rad 2. The center is 0, 12. This time, I'm going to go the opposite direction, and I'm going to give you the center and the radius. So I want you to write the equation given that the center is negative 2, 6, and the radius is 3 radical 2. So you're just going to substitute in, making sure you put the center in for your hk, and that's going to be your r. So again, our formula is x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared, and that should look very, very familiar to you from geometry. So I take x minus, and my h is negative 2, so that's like minus negative 2. That's why you always end up taking the opposite signs. Squared plus y minus 6 squared equals 3 rad 2 squared. Why would I lose a point for what I just wrote? Hopefully you're saying because you need parentheses around this 3 rad 2. That's extremely important that 3 radical 2 is in parentheses. And this is still not a nice form to leave it in, so I want to continue simplifying a little bit. So x plus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 6 quantity squared, and then I want to square this. So to do it in your calculator, either do double parentheses, or you can just type in, what I usually do is I hit 3 rad 2, and then I hit enter, and then I hit the x squared button. Enter. And that makes it so you square both the 3 and the rad 2. So 3 squared is 9, rad 2 squared is 2, 9 times 2 gives me 18. Please make sure you practice that in your calculator right now. So pause it and make sure you get 18 when you square 3 rad 2. If you don't practice these things now, you're going to make the mistake when you do it on a test or a quiz. And that's your final answer for that one. So next, I'm going to actually give you expanded form, and I want you to write it into that standard form or center radius form. So expanded form is just like if I took that formula and I FOILed it out. So I took x minus h times x minus h and FOILed it. Y minus k times y minus k and then FOILed it. Then I would get something like x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c equals 0. So all it means is it's expanded out. You don't have those parentheses being squared or anything like that. So we're going to, for number 3, write an equivalent expression by completing the square, equivalent equation actually. Okay. And then I want you to be able to identify the center and the radius. So here's the expanded form. So 4x squared minus 24x plus 4y squared plus 72y equals 76. So for this year, because we're only really looking at circles, we're going to start by just the x squared and the y squared should always have the same exact coefficient. If it doesn't, it's not a circle. So because we're only looking at circles this year, we're just going to divide everything by whatever that coefficient is. Sorry, not sure if you heard Gianni screaming. So you're always going to divide by whatever that coefficient of x squared and y squared is. There is another way of doing it where you factor it out, which you'll have to do next year in pre-calc when sometimes the coefficient of the x squared and the y squared is not the same. But for our purposes this year, dividing out 4 for all the ones we're going to do will work just fine. So I'm going to divide every single thing by 4. That's going to give me x squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 18y equals 19. So now I've already got kind of my x's and my y's grouped together, and I'm going to keep it that way. I want anything that doesn't have a variable to be on the right side of the equal sign. So 19 is the only thing that's not attached to a variable, so I'm glad that it's on the right side. So I'm going to kind of complete the square, but not the whole way, just kind of partially for my x's and my y's. So for my x term, I still need to do my b over 2 quantity squared. So for x, my b, so I'm just looking at this group right here. My xb term would be negative 6. So I'm doing a b box for the x's. So that's negative 3 quantity squared, which gives me 9. And then I'm also going to do the y term. So for my y, actually, let's finish the x's. So we've got x squared minus 6x plus, we're going to add in that b over 2 quantity squared term, plus 9. So if I add it to the left side, I need to add it over here to the right side. Now let's take a look at the y terms. So my b value for the y's is 18. So I'm going to do 18 over 2 quantity squared, which is 9 squared. If you had just written 9 without parentheses, that would be fine, which is 81. So now I'm going to add 81 in here. If I add it to that side, I need to add it to the other side. All right, so now I want to take my parentheses and rewrite them as perfect squared binomials. So here, just like when we completed the square, I take my x and then whatever b over 2 was before I squared it. So b divided by 2, negative 6 over 2 is negative 3 squared, plus y plus b over 2. So whatever it was before you squared it, so y plus 9. Remember, you're thinking what times itself gives you 81 and what plus itself adds to 18. Here you're thinking what times itself multiplies to 9 and adds to negative 6. Add up your 19, 9, and 81 to get 109. And now we are in center radius form. So now I can easily identify what my center is. So my center, I take the opposite sign, so it'd be 3 and then negative 9. And my radius would just be the square root of 109. So once we get it into this form, it's easy for us to identify the center and radius, hopefully. But the hard part here is getting it into that form. So let's do another one to practice. So for this one, again, I want you to find the radius and the center. 8x squared plus 4x plus 8y squared equals 0. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is divide by your coefficient of x squared. So again, we're divide by your coefficient, just means the number in front of your x squared or y squared. Those should be the same. So we're going to divide everything by 8. Ooh, and this one is going to give us a little bit of a fraction here. So we've left with x squared plus 4 over 8 is 1/2 x plus y squared. And we don't have to factor it out. We're not leaving it on the outside here with parentheses around it because it's an equation and we're dividing both sides by that. So you don't need to factor it out. You would write it like on the outside if there was no equal sign, or if you're just doing it to one side, just the left side, for example. All right, so now we're going to group our x's together, and our y's, we just have y squared. So we're just going to kind of leave that for now. So the x term, we're going to do our b box, so b over 2 quantity squared. Our b here is 1/2, so 1/2 divided by 2. If that's hard for you to do, type it into your calculator, or you can think of it as keep, change, flip. Keep the numerator, change to multiplication, flip the 2 over 1 to 1 over 2. So that gives us 1/4, multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, square it, and we get 1 over 16. So now I'm going to take x squared plus 1/2 x plus 1 over 16 plus y squared equals, and I'm going to, on my 0 side, I'm also going to add, keep the 0 just to show you, add the 1 over 16 to that side as well. So because there's no y term, it's just y squared, I know that my y coordinate of my center is just going to be 0. So I don't need to complete the square at all. So sometimes this is more confusing to students because it looks a little different, but it's actually a little bit easier, or less work at least, because you don't have to complete the square for the y. So now we'll write this one as a perfect squared binomial. So the variable is x plus whatever it was before you squared it. So that was 1/4 plus y squared. 0 plus 1 over 16 is 1 over 16. So that's your center radius form. I was asking you guys to find the center. So my center, I take the opposite sign of what's added to x, -1/4. And again, this right here is like saying y minus 0 squared. So your y coordinate would just be 0. And then your radius, you want to take the square root of whatever it's equal to. So when we take, this is a little review of your radicals. So we take the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom, since it's a big square root. Square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 16 is 4. So your radius would just be 1/4. Let's try another one. So again, same directions, write an equivalent expression in center radius form and find the center and the radius. So for this one, our x's are already grouped together, our y's are already grouped together, but we this time have this constant, which is a number without the variable, on the left side. So I want to rewrite this so that it's on the other side here. So I'll have 3x squared minus 30x plus 3y squared plus 18y equals positive 348, because I'm just adding that to both sides. All right, try this one on your own. So pause it and do the work and then check back with me. All right, so you guys should have started hopefully by first dividing everything by 3. So we get x squared minus 10x. And I'm going to kind of, since you guys already did this on your own, group these up already. Y squared plus 6y equals 116. And then I'm not going to show all my work because you guys have the other ones to check that with, but I would have taken -10 divided by 2, which is -5. Square that gives me 25, so I'd add 25 to this side. For my y terms, I would do 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9, so add 9 over there. And then write this as a perfect squared binomial, so that'd be x minus 5 quantity squared plus y plus 3. Again, it's what multiplies to 9 and adds to 6 times, and that's to itself. So what times itself gives you 25, and what plus itself gives you -10 would be -5. Or think about it as just dividing the middle term by 2, and that's what goes here. Or think about it as whatever it was before you squared it. We add those together, we get 150. So that's our center radius form. Our center here would be +5, -3. And our radius would be the square root of 150. We want to take out the largest perfect square, which would be 25 times 6. And then that would become 5 radical 6. So your radius is 5 rad 6, center 5 -3. And center radius form would be that. Okay, and we'll do one more. X squared plus y squared minus 10x minus 2y plus 17 equals 0. So just this one, kind of showing you without any coefficient besides a 1 in front of your x squared and y squared. And this one I put in a little bit different order. So here I would start by just kind of grouping all the x's together. So x squared minus 10x. Just to save me time, I'm going to do that, plus y squared minus 2y. Those are all the things that have y's in them. And then anything constants, anything like that gets added or subtracted to the other side. All right, so now you guys kind of have a good start. You just have a couple steps left to finish this one. So again, we did not have to divide by anything because there was a 1 in front of that x squared and that y squared. Pause the video, give this one a try. So what I want you to do is find the center and the radius. All right, so hopefully you got 25 here, +1 here, add 25 and 1. Rewrite this as x minus 5 squared plus quantity y minus 1 squared equals 9. So your center should be 5, 1, and your radius should be just 3. And that is it for these notes today. Hopefully that was a lovely review for you from geometry. And if you have any questions at all, remember to let me know, and we can go over whatever it is you need help on. Pi out.